Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You Me Empathy. My name is Known Wells. I'm the creator of this pod. I'm also the founder of the Feely Human Collective. This is episode 248 on diversity, equity, and Muslim inclusion with Rahimeh Ramezany. Rahimeh and I explore why we're not going to kindness our way out of injustice, the dangers of being stuck in our desire to be right, and how Rahimeh is advocating for Muslim inclusion and equitable access and incorporating considerations of religious identity into diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI work. I really love this conversation. Rahimeh is just a delight and someone I'm learning from and did learn from over the course of this episode. Really, really grateful for them and their perspective. Make sure to follow Rahimeh on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. All those places are linked in the show notes at feelyhuman.co. I think you're going to love this conversation. It's beautiful. It's inspiring. It's informative. It's funny. We also talk about our favorite Disney movies. That was fun. And before we get to the episode, before you listener get to the episode, please check out the membership community for Feely Human that launched just in January, just a little over 2 months ago. Go to feelyhuman.co/membership. There are 2 tiers, 2 ways to show up, 2 ways to join the community as a free member or as a paid member. Free is obviously free, $0 per month. The paid membership is $25 per month, or just reach out to me. I'm happy to accommodate sliding scale if you can't afford the $25 a month. But it's worth it. Truly, it's worth it. We have amazing monthly workshops with experts. We have our monthly movies that make us feel movie club. We have our bi-monthly or twice a month emotional check-in series. We have weekly deep dives with me and others on various topics, and plenty of space to be who you are as a Feely Human. I hope you can be a part of it. And now there's an affiliate program. So if you join and you can bring in your friends, you get 30% of every month or every payment from a paid member who's in there for up to 18 months. So also an incentive, perhaps. Any hoozles. Thank you. Go to feelyhuman.co/membership. Make sure to leave a rating and review for this podcast wherever you listen. That's also a beautiful way to support me. Please do that. Again, give Rahimeh a follow wherever they are. LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Links in the show notes. feelyhuman.co. Enjoy this episode 248 on diversity, equity, and Muslim inclusion with Rahimeh Ramezany. Enjoy.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You Me Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights, and the darks we face as humans, trying to be human on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. You Me Empathy was created so that we can be witness to our collective humanity through the lens of empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity. We aim to destigmatize mental health, lead fiercely with our hearts, feel our feelings without shame and judgment, and share our courageous stories so that others may feel less alone and more connected as Feely Humans. You Me Empathy is a brave place designed to inspire the beauty in each of us, because each of us, in all of our kaleidoscopic parts, makes up a magical whole that deserves to be seen. Today, I am so grateful to be here with intercultural practitioner and diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant who specializes in Muslim inclusion and incorporating religion into DEI. It's Rahimeh Ramezany. Hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to join you all today.
Oh my gosh. So lovely to have you. We were chatting before we got started, and I just loved everything. So I want to get into it very quickly, but before we do, we always kick off with an emotional check-in. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling grounded. I'm really happy to have this conversation and be in a vulnerable space with you all. I appreciate that the tone of this conversation, and it's not to throw shade at other tones of conversations, if you will, that it's focusing on like shared humanity and empathy and vulnerability in comparison with like, please give me a checklist of 10 things for me to do after this. Like, those are important. Those are valuable. So not criticizing them, but I think it's really beautiful to have spaces where we're just feeling each other's humanity. Like, that's really beautiful to have both of those spaces.
I appreciate that, Rahimani. I think I have a healthy sense of skepticism toward the other approach. Let's say that this is a binary, which it's not.
Sure.
Let's say that that's the other approach, the sort of the checklist, the et cetera. And my brain and my heart goes to places like that approach is sort of using this capitalistic lens, this, like we have to like,
said it.
We have to create value out of this. We have to we have to get ROI out of this, right? And I think there is some value in that. I'm not throwing that out completely. And I do see so much value in the work that you do as a DEI consultant, in the work that I do in holding workshops about empathy and vulnerability, about simply, can we be still enough and listen well enough to be witness to our wholeness, and not sort of get in the fervor of like, I gotta do, check the boxes, da da da. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you heard the phrase, you are a human being, not a human doing?
Yes. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
It's like a silly little phrase, but it kind of legit is like super deep.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. I know you see it. You're on LinkedIn. Very, very sort of passionate.
Problematically a lot.
But
yeah.
like, you see it, right? Like this valuing of our doing.
Yeah.
Which we have to do. We have to do to live.
Yeah.
We have to do to put food on the table. And
I am a fan of food.
Food is great. We gotta eat it to live. And I don't know. I just love this messy, mushy space. I always say we're collective mush. Right?
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Because I think honestly, like it puts the labor and like onus on the listener. Hey, listeners, I'm talking to you. That you listen and absorb these stories, these anecdotes of different lived experiences that don't resonate with your own lived experience. One, not challenging it to be like, well, that's not my experience, so therefore I don't think that exists. Like, so hopefully we don't have that response. Accepting that other people have other kinds of experiences in their life, and that is completely as valid as your own experience. Again, not, invalidating your own experience as well.
Yes.
And then also it puts the onus on you then to, what are you going to do with this information? Instead of like literally being spoon fed, this is what you should do with that information. And a huge part of what I talk about when I talk about Muslim inclusion and religion and DEI is that folks of Muslim backgrounds are incredibly, incredibly diverse. And I can give you, here's 10 things to be more inclusive of Muslims. And I guarantee that there will be huge groups of Muslims who will come back to me and be like, well, I'm not like that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Like, and again, like I'm being a little like snarky just because like people like to come on social media posts and just be like, criticism and is like, okay, if you want to go speak for yourself, like that's cool. Just don't come on other people's posts when they're trying to bring education.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Please support content creators. We work very hard. But anyway, and there are always going to be exceptions. There are always going to be exceptions. There is no group. There is no group, Muslims or otherwise, who are a monolith, that are all one giant gray blob, that think the same, live the same, do everything the same. No, of course not. The analogy that I love to use is that if you have a family of 5, you have 2 caretakers, whether parents or what have you, usually parents, let's say, and then you have 3 children, right? And let's say these 3 children are all very close in age. Mm-hmm. And they had the same caretakers, they have the same DNA, they grew up in the same city, like say they never move, or even if they do move, they're like, again, all 3 of them did the same experience. They are maybe 1-2 grades apart in school. The parenting style of the parents or caretakers is the same. All of these similarities, right? Like very nuclear family, very similar. And yet, I'm sure we can all appreciate that when they're adult, and even like as teenagers and as children, they have different personalities, they make different choices, they do different things with their lives, and no one looks at it funny like, oh, you're actually an imposter, you're actually not part of this family because you're different from each other. Like, no, we can appreciate that even in a nuclear family of 5, that all of those individuals are completely different and make different decisions, even though they have so much overlap and shared lived experiences from where they lived and how they lived and socioeconomic and education status and all of that, right? So imagine for Muslims specifically, there are 1.8 estimated billion Muslims in the world. 1.8 billion Muslims around the world. That's an estimated 24% of the world's population.
It's a lot.
Sit with that for a second. That's a huge amount of people in the world. Mm-hmm. Coming from all different countries, speaking different language, different ethnic groups. They have different geopolitical, regional stuff going on that absolutely informs their lived experience. They have different socioeconomic statuses. They have different levels of educational attainment. They have different genders. They have different sects of the religion exist. I had a conversation with someone who works in DEI who didn't even know that there were different sects of Islam. There absolutely is, with slightly different beliefs. Not obviously like they are still the same religion, but there are slightly different sects of Islam with slightly different beliefs. Okay.
Right.
And then even if you do talk specifically about religion, because of course, as I mentioned, all these different layers of identity, also, even if you're just talking about religion specifically, there is how much and to what level does someone adhere to their religious beliefs. They might believe in something and then not do it, right? Whether they, for all of these reasons, all that, like, I'm sure the people listening, there are things that of other people in your same identity group, whatever it is, whether it's a faith-based identity or not, that you are not like other people from the same identity. Yep. And that doesn't make you an imposter. That doesn't make the other person an imposter. So the idea being a huge part of my work around Muslim inclusion is just breaking this, like, Muslims are all exactly the same. We all think the same. We all do things the same. And just, again, pointing out how much diversity there is. And so when you meet a Muslim, I can give you a 10-point list of here, to be inclusive of Muslims, you could do this, this, and this. But I will tell you, those are generalizations. And they're useful as generalizations, but the key being is that you have to get to know the people in your life, in your workplace, your neighbors, your fellow community members, what have you, so that you can understand how to cater those inclusive practices to them specifically, because there are going to be many Muslims who act and think and want to be included differently, and that is completely valid.
It is. That's well said. I'd love to explore so when I think about and reflect on what you're saying about Muslims and yes, not a monolith, it's easy for me to understand.
Sure.
Right. Looking at say Christianity as an example, I mentioned before we got recorded that I was raised in evangelical Christianity. I no longer identify to that religion. Within Christianity, so many different sects of Christianity, right? Like hundreds, maybe even thousands. I don't know. I'm not a religious scholar, but lots. There are lots, right? And that's easy to understand.
We need to stop and count now.
That's easy to understand. And then the example, that's one sort of for the listeners, that's one maybe way in, right? Another way in is, right, like this idea around our relationship to it in terms of like how we, like Judaism, for example, right? I have friends who, take their Jewish faith very seriously, and others who maybe would call themselves, as they put it, cultural Jews, right? As an example, right?
Yep, I've heard that.
Both are valid, right?
Yep.
Both are valid experiences and valid sort of associations with that faith and culture.
Absolutely.
And nuanced, right? And part of the nuance of the experience of being in relation to a faith, to a belief system, etc., right? So I'm curious to hear from you, why do you feel that Muslims in particular are seen as this monolith? Like where do you think that comes from? Let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Where do I want to? Okay. So I will start with the media. I'm sure that's probably not a very shocking answer, but let me break it down. So there are, in the United States where I am currently at, I'm born and raised in the United States, I'm American. There are an estimated 3 million or so Muslims. It's very difficult to have an exact number because the US Census doesn't ask about religion. So there are different numbers. Some say less, some say more, but let's just say around 3 million. That's about 1% of the population. 1%. Of that population, most Muslims, not all, most Muslims live in major metropolitan areas. So if you don't live in a major metropolitan area in the United States, you have probably gone your whole life without ever meeting a Muslim. Is that your fault? No. You're just like literally living where you were born or living where you're at or where you got a job. Like that's not right. It just is. Okay. And even if you do live in a major metropolitan area, even if you have met a Muslim, you probably don't know that they are Muslim, right? Like, yes, there are some Muslim women who wear the religious head covering, which you see me wearing, called hijab. Not all Muslim women, but some. However, if you meet a Muslim woman who doesn't wear a head covering, or if you meet a Muslim man, like, there really isn't a for sure way of knowing who is and isn't Muslim unless they like literally tell you that they are Muslim, right? Like, there might be someone who was born into a Muslim family, given a quote unquote Muslim name, but then doesn't identify as Muslim anymore, right? So if they just didn't change their name, which they don't need to, then you make an assumption, or like Muslims are racialized as brown people, not black, not white, just brown people. A lot of folks who are not Muslim, but are of other faiths, especially Sikhs, are thought to be Muslim, and there's literally a different religion. All of these things are wrapped up. So even if you live in a major metropolitan area, you are more than likely never going to meet a Muslim still. And if you do see a Muslim, it's probably going to be like walking across the mall at a distance or like across the street or something. You're like, oh my gosh, look, I saw the Loch Ness Monster, amazing. That's not an opportunity to break down stereotypes. That's not an opportunity to be like, oh, I have so much more appreciation for Muslims and the religion of Islam and all of that. And I'm not saying, please don't go up to random Muslims on the street and be like, hey, teach me about your faith. Like, they're just living their lives. They're just normal people. Like, please just let them exist. Like, we're not just walking around encyclopedias. Please use Google and listen to podcasts like this. Check out my website. Check out other Muslim content creators. There's a lot out there. Please don't bother Muslims on the street. Okay, cool. So that's just saying that why there are so many stereotypes and misconceptions about Muslims. To some extent, I understand and like appreciate that there are reasons that are not like people are inherently evil, malicious people who want to hate Muslims. Like, no, mostly like there are reasons like that. So having said that, if you haven't met a Muslim in your life and had like actual authentic conversations, and that Muslim has felt comfortable sharing with you or wished to share with you like information about their background, their religious background again, then you have probably heard information about Muslims from the media, right? And so appreciating, I'm really big on following the money on any industry, right? Especially in industries that are trying to like feed you information.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they getting their money from? Like, what is in it for them? How does their business model work? So in the United States, the media is a for-profit industry. And so how do media sources make money? They run ads, and they're trying to get money from ads by getting as many eyeballs on their articles, on their videos, on whatever have you, as possible. So how, in the age that we live in, especially with so many ads, with so many pieces of media, with all the social media, like all these places like vying for people's attention, especially online. Do even newspapers even exist now? I'm sorry. Anyway, sorry, I'm a little millennial jab. But anyway, they need to be as sensationalistic as possible. They're going to pick out the most extravagant, most horrible, shocking thing. And this isn't just about Muslims, it's about everyone, right? So keep that in mind, about every group. So if you have biases that are from the media, like, this is why. So they're pulling out the most sensationalist, horrible things that have ever happened about any group, plastering it around, especially like in headlines that are clickbaity and trying to get you to click on it. So again, for, ad revenue and stuff like that. So if that's the only source of information that you have about Muslims, like, is it really that surprising that you think Muslim women are all oppressed? Because the only time you ever hear about Muslim women is when they like have been oppressed by their families, by their communities, by their religious institutions, and so on. And I don't say that stuff doesn't happen. It does happen, but it is a very small percentage of the lived experiences of Muslims. It is valid and important and needs addressing, especially internally within our community, which we are internally taking care of and assessing our own issues, just like hopefully all communities are, right? Like folks who criticize Black communities, like, oh, what about Black on Black crime? Like, they know they're doing stuff about it. Like, don't come in as an outsider and just criticize and then walk away. So in the same way, Muslims know we have our own problems. No, we're not perfect people. Of course not. So I'm not going to pretend that Muslim women don't have a hard time sometimes from their own community. It's not that there aren't Muslims who do horrible, evil acts in the world of violence. That does happen. But that is such a small percentage in comparison to all the good and all the normal people. Like, even the sense of, oh, there's so many good people doing good acts. Like, let me show you this other article about Muslims doing charity and Muslims donating to this cause and stuff like that. Like, even that bothers me, because it's like, why is it that I have to prove to you that we are good people for you to be like, oh yeah, I guess you're not all horrible terrorist people? Like, why don't you just know that no group is a monolith? There are bad people doing horrible, disgusting, vile things of every group, religious or otherwise, and they don't speak for the group. Like, we should just know that by now. Like, I don't look at other groups. And of course, like, I've had to deconstruct my own biases. So I'm not saying like, oh, I'm a paragon of virtue and like everyone should be like me. No, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work in which I put to you. And Noan and I had this conversation before we started recording, that I do this work, especially like when I come on podcasts and, free unpaid work. The contract that I want to make explicit here for the listeners who are here, which I appreciate I appreciate your attention, because just like I said, like, there's a lot of media sources vying for your attention, and you don't have to listen to this podcast. So that is great. That is wonderful. You are putting in work. However, the contract that I want to make explicit right now is that me as a Muslim, sharing the trauma and the hardships that I have experienced, that my family has experienced, my community has experienced today and historically and will in the future. The reason I am doing it is so that you go and make the world a more inclusive, equitable place in your areas of influence. This is not for you to get your ally badge of, hey, I listened to a podcast, so now I'm inclusive of Muslims and I don't need to do anything. Nope. You have this information, you know some little bit more about the experiences of Muslims. And again, like, hopefully the work that I do, I try and use Muslims as an example, but like, you can just pull out the word Muslim and put in another identity group and the same sort of strategies apply, right? I'm sure those of you listening, if you have a marginalized identity, you can think of, oh, folks who are disabled are not a monolith. They have different lived experiences. Non-binary folks are not a monolith. They have different experiences, right? So you can get you can listen to a podcast that talks about, oh, this is the experiences of disabled people, of non-binary people, of Black women, of on and on, different identity groups. But you have to get to know the people in your real life so that you can be inclusive of them and their preferences, knowing that what you learned are generalizations. And those are useful as generalizations, but you do need to go and do the work to get to know other folks. I promise, Noan, I will let you talk at some point.
So I really was soaking it all in. You can talk as much in front of me, at me, around me as you want. And what I was reflecting on, two things. One is what is very clear to me. I know the work you're doing is essential and beautiful and meaningful and important. That's without question. And I don't, if I'm reflecting on my humanity, I don't necessarily have to like show up and like prove myself that I am not a monolith, because I am, right? I am default. I am a cis white man. I am quote unquote default in the world, right? Came from a Christian home, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, I have, traumas and all that stuff, and I am default, right? So there's a certain level of which makes me sad as a human and proud of you as a human, as a fellow human, that sad that you have to like sort of prove all of this stuff that to me is very, because I've done a lot of work, it's a no-brainer, right? Like it's like I get it, I understand, and this matters deeply to me. And I'm proud. And it inspires, right? So like I'm holding those two things at once, feeling sad that like you have to, even though you don't have to. I know it's your heart. I know it matters to you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do. And it is something that I struggle with as well, that the bar is set so low to prove that Muslims are like human.
Yeah.
And not like aliens, like another species. On one hand, in some ways it makes my job easier. I don't really like saying it that way, but in the sense of like that I can just show up and have like a coherent conversation in English with an American accent, and people are like, amazing, like shocking.
She's
so
just
articulate.
Like us.
Exactly. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with someone who works in DEI, who they had told me in the conversation at some point that I was the first Muslim that they've ever had like any substantial conversation with. Someone who works in DEI. And before our conversation, our recording, we were like, like before podcast recordings, which I love, is like getting the little nerves out, right? Because we are nervous talking to you all. You guys, we really want this to be meaningful information to you. So getting like the nerves out. So we started talking about like our favorite Disney movies, right? And like, if anyone loves Disney movies, right? Like, no, pick one. No, you can't pick multiple. You have to pick one. And like, oh, this is what it is. Like, and fan theories and just like normal conversation. And I could see that she was really surprised that I like, again, just had this normal conversation. And again, it makes my job easier because literally just being a normal human being is like breaking stereotypes. But on the other hand, like that just goes to show how much of a perception that Muslims are just this foreign isn't even a strong enough word. That's why I use the word like alien. I know that there is some sensitivity around the word alien for like illegal aliens being used for undocumented immigrants. So I do recognize that sensitivity, but I use the word alien in like literally the sense of like green skin, bald, silver spacesuit, gibberish language. Like literally that's how foreign Muslims are thought. I had an interaction with, well, not an interaction. I was out at the movies like years and years and years ago with another friend of mine who wears hijab, the Muslim head covering that you see me wearing, that some Muslim women wear. And we were just watching like a regular movie in a public American movie theater. We got out and my friend heard this woman at a distance say like, I didn't know that they right? So just like literally going about our days and living our lives is like breaking stereotypes. Amazing. Muslim women are so empowered. Like, yeah, I have to take deep breaths. I have to take deep breaths, but I appreciate those who are open to, you know, seeing different identity groups through different lenses and expanding their way of thinking. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for that. That's very well said. And I can imagine the sort of the feeling of like making my job easier piece is like, oh, wow, so much room for growth here.
Yeah,
right.
the
Like
bar
there's
is just
just
so low.
there's just so much ahead of you. Right. And that feels sad and it's opportunity. Right.
Yeah,
Holding both of those things. Yeah.
yeah.
What, I mean, now we have to know, what are some of your favorite Disney movies?
Oh my. So my favorite Disney movie is The Lion King. I don't even know why. It's probably like a big
good
part of
one.
my childhood. The music is so meaningful to me.
You're a 90s,
you know, like
90s baby.
I am.
Yeah.
91. Yeah.
Okay. So Lion King was what, 94?
I don't even
Around there?
I don't even know.
I think
Yeah.
so. Anyways,
yeah,
that's a good one.
I identify really strongly with being a millennial. The remake was trash. The remake was trash.
I did not see the remake.
Don't even waste your life. Like, don't. Oh. Anyway, I could talk about this, but just for the sake of like staying on topic, because I definitely have ADHD, and ADHDers are known for like going off on tangents and being like, "What were we talking about again?" And we're like 3-4 topics away.
I got you.
Don't go watch the remake. It's trash. But anyway, yeah, like, yeah, oh, I love that movie so much. But yeah, Disney movies are great. And, you know, realizing that, yeah, it's a corporation, and yes, they're trying to sell me my child and blah, 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 right? And I have a hard time like watching The Little Mermaid now because there's so many problems with that movie. There's literally a whole song that's like anti-consent. Oh, she didn't say anything. Oh, you should kiss her. Like, it doesn't matter that she hasn't like literally said anything to you. She just read her. See, she wants it. Like, that's literally a whole anti-consent song. And it's like
pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Her hair is so pretty.
I know that is a troubling one. I am a big animation nerd.
Oh,
and so the Disney films, for me, it's Hayao Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
World is very much my own, but I was fond in terms of Disney. Fond of The Black Cauldron. Did you ever see that one?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. It didn't do well. It was like kind of panned. You know, it struggled in production, but like I appreciated that it was a little different and darker.
Yeah. As a kid, it scared me because the like guy pulling himself out of the cauldron. Like, and like I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat. So especially as a little kid, that was like, oh no, it's scary.
For sure. So how where do I want to go here?
Yeah.
Let's actually, I'm curious, like, I think I read on your website, Rahimeh, that you were born into a Muslim family, and it wasn't a sort of a practice or active practice until your 20s.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit, and like what sort of inspired you to get into it? What initiated that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for reading that far down my website. I really believe in the importance of, and I appreciate that others may not agree, and that is cool. I respect that. I personally believe in my philosophy around DEI is that if you're going to talk about DEI, it's important to be very transparent about your identities and the lenses through which you are doing this work, because anyone in DEI, anyone in intercultural communication, I have a master's in intercultural communication, that's why I bring that up, knows that we are all, every single human being, no matter what your identities, are hugely impacted by like your culture and how you grew up.
Yeah.
Right. And
Mhm.
so as much as I can try and unlearn certain things, as much as I can try and learn about other identity groups that I don't belong to, I still am very much going to always be cemented in like the cultures that I grew up in. Right. So being very clear when people invite me or want to learn from me and stuff, that I express to them, like, I have done this work to try and expand my worldview. However, this is inherently the lenses through which I am very much founded in. So you get to decide, like, what you take from what I'm saying.
I appreciate
So,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just like having that like authentic relationship and transparency. So yeah, thank you for reading that. And then so for me, the idea being is that I am the child of a Iranian immigrant to the United States and a white American convert to Islam. So I identify as multi-ethnic, though racially white, even though like it's like weird. Like anyone who's like multi-ethnic, multiracial, biracial, what have you, like anyone who's mixed of some kind, like knows that it is incredibly messy and weird to try and describe your identity. But I was born with the name that I have, like a Muslim Persian hybrid name. My last name is Iranian, is Persian. My first name is like a Persian Arabic Islamic hybrid. And I've never had pork. I've never had alcohol. You know, like, you know, I've worn hijab, like technically a piece of fabric on my head, since I was 11 years old. I chose to put it on at that age. It's actually ironic because I put it on at age 10 originally, but that was the year September 11th happened. So like, I'm honestly like, I don't remember it obviously because I was very little at the time and you weren't paying attention to timelines at that young of age, but I must have had it on for only a couple of weeks because I put it on for the start of the school year, right? September, August, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like September 11th happened, and then my family, and especially my immigrant father, very much feared for my safety. So I like took it off for another year and then put it back on in 6th grade. So however, having said that, like all of these kinds of things that are known for, you know, Muslim identifiers, name, no pork, no alcohol, like wearing hijab and all of that. And if you see pictures of me in middle school and high school, I'm wearing technically a piece of fabric on my head. But I didn't know anything. Like I was taken out of religious educational systems. Like I didn't go to Sunday school. Muslims do have Sunday school in the West. We've like modeled that after churches because of the way that the week is structured in the West. In Islamic countries, I don't know. Not all. I don't know if all of them. I know a lot of Muslim countries do their weeks in a different way, where they take off Fridays and Saturdays, because Fridays are kind of like the Muslim Sunday for Christians, right? So it's like that equivalent.
Yeah.
So Muslims in the West will do Sunday schools for their children at like mosques to teach their children religion and Quranic Arabic and, you know, prayers and stuff like that. So I was taken out of all of that. I wasn't around any Muslims growing up. And so I just like forgot everything that I had learned. I literally didn't know anything, even to the point where in my late teens, I was sitting in like a study area with other students, and I was eating in the study area, and a non-Muslim, asked me like, "Hey, aren't you fasting for Ramadan?" I didn't even know that it was Ramadan, right? Like that's how clueless I was. Like I literally knew nothing. So for myself, like authenticity is a really big thing for me. It's very important, like to just be living who you actually are. And so I was definitely going through a huge amount of cognitive dissonance of like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I wearing hijab if I literally don't know anything? I'm not doing anything Muslim. Like, why? This is, you know, honestly, the only reason I'm doing this is because it would be super awkward to take it off after wearing it this long. And like the reactions of people, and especially as a teenager, that's like, oh my God, people will be looking at me.
Oh yeah. Teenagers are the worst.
Oh my God. Like it's hard being a teenager. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So, like you want everyone to look at you like, oh, they're looking, but then you don't.
Yeah, it's both.
It's so, oh my God, poor teenagers. Don't worry. Anyone listening, if you're a teenager, if you are listening, like, wow, you're listening to podcasts. That's cool. But also like, don't worry, it'll get better. Just survive through these years. Anyway, So I started living with my dad. My parents are divorced. I started living with just my dad in college. And as is the way with Iranians, is that they are really big socializers. Oh my gosh, they're really big socializers, very like community oriented, collectivistic cultures, which is a really beautiful thing. So I would start going with my dad to his like friend's house, other Iranian families' houses on weekends. And I met this wonderful family who was so incredibly kind and basically took my hand very gently and like taught me Islam. And I watched them for a very long time because growing up in middle school and high school, unfortunately, the times that I was around other Muslims, which was not very often, they were not good people, right? So hopefully I'm not shocking anyone who's non-Muslim. Please don't listen to this and be like, see, look, Muslims are all bad people. No, there are some Muslims who are not good people, and there's some Muslims who are good people, and there are some Muslims who are good and bad. They are complicated human beings just like everyone, okay? So I'm not giving you tools to further stereotype my people, please. However, the Muslims that I was around as a child, I observed qualities about them that I did not admire. And then because those were the only times I was around Muslims, I associated that with Muslims, like that with Islam, right?
Sure.
And so when I was around this family, I watched them for like 6 months or so, like a really long time of being like, you're not really this nice. I know it's just a facade. I know you're not really like this kind or like understanding. Like, no, it's a trick. And so they were like seriously kind and generous and so warm and welcoming and never judgmental. And so I finally like let my guard down and was able to ask questions about the religion, like why believe in God at all? Like, why? Right? Why this religion? Why this? Why that? Why do prayers this way? Why do 5 prayers? Why do like all these basic things that anyone who had been raised in a Muslim family, if I had gone to the mosque, people would have thought, oh, like, why don't you know this already? And I would have been incredibly embarrassed. I don't feel like I would have, like, it would have caught people off guard. It wouldn't
might
have
have felt
well.
some shame.
Yeah, a lot of shame. I definitely did feel a lot of shame about like, oh, why don't I know this? And so this family were incredibly kind and very patient and gave me all the answers that I was looking for and gave me time to think about it and come back with more questions and so on. And so at around the age 20, I like embraced and chose to be a practicing Muslim, even though like technically I was still wearing hijab the whole time. Like my clothing got a little bit looser and like longer and stuff like that instead of like tighter jeans. Because hijab is about modesty, and like the concept of hijab is not it's the concept of modesty in general, and that applies to all genders, not just women. We use the word hijab kind of like in non-Muslim settings to indicate the piece of fabric on a Muslim woman's head that covers her hair and ears and neck. But actually, as an Islamic topic, it is more around like modesty in general, and this applies to men and to women and in different ways and in our behaviors especially. So it's supposed to be in part of a ways, it's supposed to be a reminder of how you behave as well in your relationship with God, and God is always with you and so on.
Gotcha.
Not God is always with you, but like God is always with you, right? Like tone of voice is very important, right? Like not fire and brimstone, but
It's
like
not
love and care and like you're never alone and you have that support. And when you feel like no one understands you or no one sees what you're going anyway. So I want to be sensitive to, I'm happy to have those conversations that are more deeper and spiritual, but I'm really big on not everyone wants to have those conversations. So I'll cut myself off there. However, they were incredibly kind and generous and held space for my questions, even though like I was from a Muslim family and had this name that I've always had and, those things. So I chose to be Muslim starting at around age 20. And then I was able to join like the mosque and meet all the other like youth my age and became like part of the youth group and like spent a lot of years all through college and like my undergrad and my grad school years, which I did back to back. I don't recommend that to other people, just so you know. But anyway, like it was basically like 6-8 years or something. I spent a very long time. I dragged my feet through college, but that's a whole other topic as well. Again, ADHDers, we go off on tangents. So I spent a very long time in college, and I spent like, honestly, it was like a huge learning curve of like just learning my own religion.
Mm.
And so now I feel like I graduated honestly kind of from like a religious seminary in a lot of ways. Like hopefully other Muslims don't like come at me for saying that, but it was just like a very intense time of learning. And now I feel like the era that I'm in my life, I unfortunately don't have the ability to attend mosque programs as often. My family responsibilities are such that it keeps me at home more. But I feel like I'm able to translate all those years of learning into actually acting on that, right? And one of those ways is that I truly believe that inclusion, the beauty of diversity, and treating others with justice and yourself with justice and compassion is all incredibly Islamic. Those are Islamic values. I am living my faith by doing this work. I'm not like Muslim and then I pause being Muslim and then I like advocate for DEI. Like, I find that DEI principles and values, by and large, are incredibly Islamic.
That's beautiful. And I love that you had that moment with that family who were empathetic, compassionate, listened to you, understood that you were a human trying to learn, and they looked at your experiences preceding that and understood that like you didn't have the opportunity before, or maybe you didn't take it, or whatever. It doesn't matter. There was this human in front of you being curious, and they had some answers. That's really empathetic.
Exactly. And honestly, like, even that, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know what your life was beforehand to hold space for you, to have compassion for you, to treat you with justice, to honor your rights, right? So so I am incredibly and forever indebted to that family. I do prayers for them. I truly believe that any good that I do, like, Muslims, Islam, like, it's a religion, right? Like, we do things in service of God, and believing that we will be rewarded in the next life, not only for the reward. It's not like a cash out system. No, like, I don't know, like, some people criticize religion, like, oh, you're just doing it for brownie points and all that. Like, so I don't want to like oversimplify it. The point of this conversation is not to go into like the details of Islam. And again, I am not a religious scholar, so I do try and err on the side of not going super deep into Islamic topics, just stay in my lane and making sure that, like, there are resources if you want to learn about Islam, the religion. There are like a lot of interfaith courses you can take at colleges, at community colleges. There's online sources.
Of course, there
are like websites that you can go and learn about like actual religion. So anyway, just to like note that. However, for anyone who may be a little bit more critical of religion, I'm not saying that like I'm doing any of these things for the payout later. Like, oh, I want to go to heaven, and so therefore I'm going to do these good things. Hopefully the idea is that you have a relationship with God, that you love him, he loves you, that he wants the best for you. There's so much mercy and compassion for you, and that in turn, like, he wants you to love and show mercy and compassion and advocate for justice for other people, other creations of his, right? Your fellow Muslims, or like your fellow siblings in faith, but also like his other creations. And that's not just other human beings, it's also animals, the planet, right? Like, if you want to talk about climate justice, like, climate justice is very much in alignment with Islam, right? Like, we should not be destroying the planet. And Islam is against like burning trees and mistreating water and mistreating like the elements, right? So anyway, I will stop there with the religion talk, but yeah, just essentially that my DEI work is incredibly founded in my religious identity and is like a manifestation of that.
And I appreciate it. It's what like drew me to you, I think, because DEI as a topic, as an idea, it's buzzy, right? It's like since George Floyd, like it's in the zeitgeist, and it of course preceded it. Of course it did. And businesses are trying to like glom onto it in genuine ways and trying to learn and educate. and in
Yeah.
not so genuine ways,
and not so genuine.
in performative ways,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
actually, I experienced that firsthand.
Yeah,
It was very hard
yeah,
and difficult, and I removed myself from that that space because I had to.
Mm-mm.
But what I appreciate is that religious inclusion, because you don't, like, the reality is it's been a lot of conversation, rightfully so, about using the word BIPOC, right? Black, Indigenous,
Sure.
people of color. Muslim potentially is not part of that, right?
Yeah, it's not an
religion
it's-
is
yeah.
potentially not part of that. It's not part of that conversation.
Yep.
And of course, we live in a world with, I mean, you said it, like billions of people of the Muslim faith believing in Islam, right? That's part of it.
Yep.
And there's all these other religions, right? It's all part of it, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, and especially as companies, if we're going into more like corporate ideas of DEI, most people around the world do identify with some faith or another, right?
Sure.
So if you have companies around the world, if you have clients and customers around the world, which I'm sure a lot of companies want that or already have that, the idea being that, like, if you want to, like, be on the world stage and marketing your products and services, like, don't you want to be catering that to like 24% of the world's population? Right?
I mean,
Like,
the way you say it, like, makes my heart hurt a little bit, because it's
in what
like,
way?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
and you're
like that
right,
I have to rationalize it.
that you have to, like, use their language.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the piece of it that, like, I struggle with, is this, because I see a lot of the performance. Like, it's very clear. The performance is very clear. I'm sure you see it day in and day out. And like that part, and then the part where, like, people are just too afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that's the insidious part that really, like, gets under my, like, that really, like, on a human level, like, makes me deeply sad.
Yeah.
That I'm sure you have felt the same.
Yeah. It is sad, and it is unfortunate that there is still a need many times to use the business case for any of these kinds of work, for justice, for compassion for human beings, for understanding that it's not just, oh, why don't you just work harder? Excuse me? Like, are you ignoring all of systemic oppression and all the history of marginalization that my group or other groups have experienced, and, like, you're just going to wave a magic wand and pretend that it doesn't happen? However, in my personal approach, and this is not a critique at anyone who does not take this approach, however, this is my approach, is that I personally don't like spending too much time with, like, this should matter to you, or I should be able to use this reason to matter to you, because it feels like I'm hitting my head against a wall of, like, this is how it should be, but it clearly doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so if my ultimate goal is to cause change, or, help build change in community with others who are dedicated to this work, right? Because of course it's not just me. Like, no heroism here, right? Like, all of us here in community pushing in our own different ways. I feel like it is not the best use of our time and energy to be too caught up in the shoulds. This should matter to people. This should matter to them. I shouldn't have to explain this.
Absolutely.
So I can complain, like, amongst my peers, and we can vent to each other and just be like, oh, this is so frustrating. That's fine. Like, that's valid. But ultimately, when it's time to do the work, I'm trying to observe, and this is how I do, like, my consulting training work and stuff like that. When I prep for those kinds of meetings and projects, is like, what does matter to you? Like, no. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Don't tell me, like, what is, you're worried about being canceled or whatever. Tell me what actually matters to you. And I'm looking in between the lines of what you're saying and how your people, like organizations, people respond to different messages. What actually matters to you? Right? Because then that's actually going to cause the change that I want. And ultimately, I want the change more than the principle of this is how it should be done.
Of course.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So again, like absolutely no criticism or shade to other people. We do need principled people to stand and call attention to like how wrong it is to continuously have to make the business case of how much money you're going to make if you are inclusive.
Yeah.
I think that that's good and important. I personally am very exhausted and don't like, in a lot of ways, it feels like wasting my breath on like just shouting from the rooftops, like this should matter to you, but it clearly doesn't matter to people. I'm like, okay, so what does matter to people? And I'm going to go through that door.
I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that
you're not,
I hope that makes sense.
It does. No, that makes absolute sense. Your job is not to convince people that this stuff matters. Right? Like you're right. I mean, like, because there's a fundamental philosophical understanding that like humans are varied and valued and all of these experiences within that whole are valid and beautiful and should be explored and should be honored and given respect and justice, right? And love, and all those things. And that's the baseline. And if someone can't understand or see that, it's not like, oh, they're a lost cause, but like maybe your job isn't to convince them of it, right?
The way I see it, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
The way I see it is I want this result.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can use the way that makes sense to me in my brain, or I can understand who I'm talking to and use persuasion points that matter to them to get them to hopefully the same point, right? Which again is like ultimately inclusion and justice and compassion and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like treating people equitably.
Yeah.
So if that's where I want people to go, but if I tell them, hey, you should do that because that's like we want to make the world a better place and this is what that looks like, and they're not convinced, me being disgusted with them is not going to ultimately get me to that place. I might be disgusted and I might be frustrated. So I'm not saying like I'm this perfect paragon of patience. Absolutely. No.
But there's like, it may not be useful.
Like, the point being is that like, do I want to be right? Or do I want to actually have the change happen?
You want the
outcome. And for me, as much as I would love to be right all the time, don't get me wrong, I would love to be right all the time. But ultimately, I want the change more than it has to be done in this way.
Yeah.
So it's getting to know the person and the organization and the team that I'm working with to really see. And again, a lot of the times they don't even know. It's observing and watching their behaviors and stuff of how they interact with each other, how they interact with me, how they've interacted with these topics in the past, to see how is it that you care about this work, and I'm going to cater the approach to what you actually care about rather than what I think you should care about. But you don't care about it that way, right?
I love it. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, part of the reason I'm I guess bringing this up is I see it a lot, and I see it in myself sometimes, this maybe modern liberalism sort of idea of like, or seeing a lot of maybe righteousness in modern liberalism, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I'm right about this and you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
And that's and to me, at the end of the day, that's not very useful. And I want to be like, if I am educating and talking about empathy, right? Like I want to be useful in that effort, right? Like if I use the example of like, infiltrating, that's not the right word. That's sort of like a war word, and I don't like that. But like getting into an organization that may be like entering an organization that may be like more like politically conservative than I am, right? And I want to be useful in the efforts to talk about empathy. Like I'm not going to go in guns a-blazing and talk about like, Trump is the worst or whatever.
Yeah.
And he is, and I believe that.
Yeah.
and
But
that's not
the
going to be
point.
that's not
Yeah.
the point, and that's not going to be useful. Like that's
Yeah.
just me like tooting my own horn that like,
Yeah.
hey, I am this righteous liberal or whatever, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
useful, and it's not the point. Yeah. And so like the point being, I want to make impact. I want to like see that change
Yeah.
and inspire that change in others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just about like the feeling of rightness, whether it's righteousness
Yes.
or just like feeling very correct, that your opinions are correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I've had to learn. So again, like very much a learning curve for myself that I just wish to pass on to others, is this idea of like having the humility. Like it's good to have strong opinions. It's good to fight for the causes you believe in. However, not ever being so stuck in your own rightness
Mm-hmm.
that you are closed off to competing information.
Yes.
And like this is not saying that anyone can send you some random article. Like anyone can create a website, you know that, right? Like anyone can open a social media account. Hey, I saw this thing on Facebook.
Yep.
That's not a source of like knowledge and like fact, right? So being critical of the information that you're getting. However, if someone is using logic or if someone using like studies, and even again, I do fully recognize that even scientific studies have their problems for sure.
Yep.
Right. So the idea being is that if an argument that is well thought out, that is validated, that has some substance to it, has been presented to you that is counter or slightly off from your opinion or your beliefs, being open to and having the humility to know that you don't know everything about the world and that you might be wrong. Right. And
Yes.
even and I say that, and I'm sure there's someone out there being like, well, Rahimeh, are you open to people pointing out, like, hopefully, God willing, like, yes, I try to be like, I try not to come on speaking engagements and be like, hey, everyone, you should be this way, but I'm not going to do that. No. So I myself do try very much to have the humility of being like, yes, I'm advocating for these values. I'm advocating for this work and doing it in this way. But if I learn, if I reflect more and learn like, oh, you know what? I actually disagree with that way of doing things now. It's not that I was like an evil, horrible person for changing my mind. There are many scholars that we do respect that at the earlier part of their careers, they had certain opinions. And then as they got older and learned more and matured and saw more of history, that they're like, you know what? Actually, I would change that. Right. And we don't disrespect them, hopefully. Like, as people know more and learn more and get more nuanced understandings, they change their minds. Right. So anyway, just like, yeah, just that point of like, to the point of righteousness or like the feeling of being right. Like you are so convinced in your rightness. Just try and leave the door a crack open for other perspectives that may challenge you, because if you are so set on you being right, you are probably going to be missing out on information that like you really should be considering.
Yes. And not just information, joy and beauty.
True.
And growth and relationship and like you're speaking my language. I love that.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
So I think I read something along the lines. You're very active on LinkedIn. I am not as much. But I read something you said or you reposted or something that was along the lines of we can't or we won't kindness our way out of racism and inequity, etc.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say that?
So I get kind of an ick whenever I see folks post about, we just need the world to be more kind. We just need to be better human beings. We just need to love each other. Because usually the folks using that reasoning are using it as a cop-out for taking accountability for harm that was caused historically or current day, or that they are doing in their interpersonal relationships if they have institutional power, in the sphere of influence that they have.
Yeah.
Right. So no one in DEI is like inherently against love. Like, I truly believe that the heart of social justice, which I personally believe DEI is like an offshoot of that. I describe DEI as like social justice for organizations when I meet people in my personal life who have literally never heard of DEI.
I love
It's
that.
so funny meeting
Yeah.
people who've never heard of DEI. Sorry, offshoot again, tangent. But just like, it's so funny as like someone who spends literally all my time professionally and problematically living online with other folks who are in this space. And then I go into my personal life and I have a very kind elderly auntie in the community being like, "Oh, what do you do for work, dear?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is what I do." And she's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, I don't know how to describe this without you knowing it already. So yeah, so I've been describing it as like social justice for companies. And they're like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's really cool too." So again, being that I believe very much that social justice, like DEI, is a like offshoot, a branch of social justice, that this work is inherently founded on love. It is the love for humanity. It is for my siblings in like from a religious standpoint in creation, not just my siblings in faith, but all of creation, human beings, as well as animals, the planet, and so on. I do it because of love. I do it because I love myself, my community. Yes, myself. We all should love ourselves, hopefully. You know, when I see that other people have gone through a hard time, even if they're not from my racial group or my religious group or whatever, like, it pains me. I have read, and I'm not saying this to be performative, right? But just to prove, and I'm not special. I know that there's so many others who do this work, right? So please don't be like, "Oh, Rahimeh, you're virtual signaling." No, like, so many people are like this. And why DEI and social justice work is so incredibly taxing that if you just listen to a podcast or if you watch a recording or a video or something, like, you might not realize how taxing and emotionally draining it is. I've seen social media posts about this one in particular about a young Black boy. I forget his name. And this is from like decades ago in like the early 1900s. And it's a picture of him sitting on a bunch of books because he was going to the electric chair for some crime that obviously he didn't commit. He's a child. And he was so short that they had to put a giant pile of books under his seat so that he could be electrocuted and murdered. And I've seen that a couple of times. And every time I see it, it haunts me. Like, it breaks my heart is not a strong enough word. I'm trying not to cry on this podcast. I'm not Black. I'm not a boy. I'm not a child. Why do I care? That was 1,000,000 years ago. Not 1,000,000. I'm exaggerating, obviously. That's over. He's passed away. Get over it. No, I'm not going to get over it. Right? So no one who does DEI or social justice work or anything related doesn't believe in love or doesn't believe in like kindness. So it's not that we dislike kindness. It's a matter that it is usually used by those with privilege as a cop-out for accountability. And to just kind of like, oh, let's just start with a clean slate and pretend that all the harm systemically, interpersonally, that they have done themselves or that their identity groups have caused or people that they've voted into electoral positions of power have caused. They don't want to take any accountability of that. And it sounds very good. Let's just put it on a t-shirt. Oh, kindness. Right? So that's the problem. Yep. We are not going to kindness our way out of systemic injustice. We're not going to kindness our way out of oppression. There has to be deep learning about the history of these topics, how different groups have been affected, how your group has perpetuated those things. Something that I haven't talked about that much, because again, I talk about Muslims a lot. And, you know, it's very easy to talk about like my immigrant father, which that is an important part of my identity for sure. Mm-hmm. However, again, like I think I mentioned that I have a white American mother of mixed European ancestry.
Yeah.
So as I have learned, white Americans tend to like to do their history, like their family history. And so I have an aunt, one of my mom's sisters, who has tracked our heritage. They have found pictures of one of our ancestors who was a soldier in the Civil War and not on the right side. Like pictures, and you know, from her perspective, it's like, look, we're attached to history. I'm like, oh my god, why would you tell people that? Like, don't tell people that, right? It's not it's not a far off removed thing for me to be like, oh, look, civil rights, slavery, like people who own slaves, people, or you know, enslaved folks, people who like committed horrible, atrocious acts in service of white supremacy and established white supremacy. Going even further back, this same aunt has tracked our heritage to the first colonizers, white European colonizers in the United States. And for her, it is so that she can join like a women's club or organization of some kind, like that are like the daughters of or like the descendants of the original settlers, like colonizers, right? And again, so for me, I am descended, as much as I am Muslim, as much as I like have an immigrant Middle Eastern father, as much as I have a Muslim name, as much as I have all these areas of marginalization, I also have this other history of legit oppressors that I am not responsible for. Like, I did not do those things. I didn't choose to be their descendant. However, it very much weighs on my mind. And it is my love for all of humanity, not just people who look like me and who I might have blood relation to, that drives me to this work and keeps me coming back, even though it is incredibly difficult. And even when I saw that social media post, and then the second time I saw it, I literally like sitting at my desk, like literally at this desk crying. So that is my response to why kindness is not going to be what fixes this.
It's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we can all agree that kindness is great. You know, and it's not the intricate, nuanced, sort of cognizant of history and experience and active, messy, uncomfortable, all of that work and grappling with life and people and community. That is the stuff that we need to do to work our way out of this, right? To dismantle this, right?
Another analogy, if you don't mind interjecting,
please.
That I see a lot of conversation around is like the impact of what was said or done versus the intention. So someone might say, if they have caused harm and they are being told, hey, you caused harm, that, oh, my intention was good. My intention was to be helpful. My intention was to do this positive thing. And that is completely valid. Like, one, if that actually is true, right? Like, a lot of people lie, so there's that. But let's say like that is true. Okay, you intended to do a good thing. Amazing. However, are you then saying that the fact that you caused harm, like you hurt someone? So your feeling, again, of rightness, of being justified in your intention being enough to get you out of you literally hurting someone, like, no, that's not good enough. You should care more about the other person being harmed than defending yourself. Of like, no, I will, like, again, that's why I think like emotional intelligence is really, really the foundation of DEI work and doing, honestly, of life. If your brain, which all of our brains are wired this way, if you feel unsafe and attacked in this way of like being told that you have caused harm, your brain reacts with like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And you just run away or fight it or argue or whatever. Then you're not able to sit and process the information, the feedback that you're being given. You're not being told that you're an inherently evil, disgusting human being and you should, like, you don't deserve anything that you have access to, opportunities, jobs, you know, public speaking spaces, whatever. It's a matter of like, no, if I hit you across the face on accident, right? Like, and you say, hey, you just hit me. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean to. Like, that's a ridiculous thing. Like, everyone is like, but you did. You literally did. You could see the
Harm
mark on
was
this person. Like,
caused.
the harm was caused.
Yeah.
That's not the point, right? Like,
well, and then
okay,
my
it's
job
great.
in that moment is to understand that, like, oh well, I know you didn't intend that, and I can soften into that and not take offense, but like it does take that curiosity and that nuance and understanding that yes,
Yeah.
intent and impact matter deeply. Absolutely.
Yes, and I would say that if we were talking about using like the hitting someone analogy
Sure.
to make it a little bit more lifelike, is like if I hit you 1,000 times and then on the 1,001th time you don't respond with understanding that my intention was good, like understanding that the heat and the lack of forgiveness or the lack of like wanting to engage with the person who harmed them is not a failing on their part of not being empathetic enough or not like looking at things from both sides.
I agree.
Right? Yeah. Like if I had like, this is a very simplistic question, but a lot of folks get asked, where are you from? Oh no, where are you from? Right. I get this question a lot. A lot of people get this question a lot.
Yep.
And most people do not like getting this question because it is inherently othering. It is implying that the person asking, who's usually a person with, a lot of privilege, that they obviously belong where they're at. And look at you clearly don't belong here. You're from somewhere else.
Right.
And it's always a stranger. It's always a stranger on the street asking. It's never someone I have an actual relationship with. Because for myself personally, if I have rapport with someone, if someone knows me, I know them, we have a relationship, like I don't mind getting to like sharing my background with them. Obviously, I'm literally here on a podcast, like sharing my background. And I'm interested to know about their ethnic background or where they came from and stuff like that. Both like their birthplace, where they grew up, their ethnicity, and so on. But it's always a stranger asking me on the street and asking other people on the street. So that question is inherently othering and implying that the person asking is obviously from wherever they are, and that their curiosity is so important to just scratch this itch of like, what box should I put you in? So I'm going to ask a random stranger on the street, where are you from?
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, I'm from here. No. Where are you from? Like, you don't understand. Where are your people? What like small world corner of the third world did you crawl out of to be here and be so lucky to be here with me? So, the idea being that however, a lot of people who ask that question do have sometimes good intentions, right? Like, oh, I just want to get to know other people, right? And when I talk about, hey, please don't ask strangers, especially like, where are you from? Or here's this like more nuanced look at this question. A lot of people have the problem like, oh, well, I asked that. Or I had one person was like, oh, my 80-year-old mother asked people that. And she sees it as a way of getting to know people and being inclusive and getting to know other cultures and all that. I'm like, okay, good. That is your intention. And that's cool. You have good intentions, but you need to understand that microaggressions, which this would absolutely be considered a microaggression, is a paper cut 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
If you have a piece of paper, like just put out your hand, like a piece of paper, over and 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 over. Even if you did it once, it would hurt. Like paper cuts hurt like crazy. But if you have a paper cut over the same spot 1,000,000 times, 1,000 times, 5 times, like you're going to be really sensitive when you get it again or when it looks like it's coming your way again, right? So being understanding that and not centering yourself in like, oh, well, my intention was good and the other person should see that and like give me the benefit of the doubt. Like this person has been harmed so many times on the same spot that like it's inherently wrong to expect this person who has been treated this way for so long, especially folks who've been treated from childhood this way. For instance, like Black folks are treated this way from like infancy by other races, right? Like, is it really a wonder that they would react badly and not like care about your feelings in like, oh, you're judging me?
Yes.
It's not about you.
It's not. And the onus is on the harmer, the person, perpetuating the harm. Absolutely. We're in agreement for sure. But I love that analogy, the paper cuts. I've heard that before and it's really effective. It's really effective. it's important to, like, as we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
right? It's the nuance and sometimes those simple analogies to
Yeah.
like get us into the space can be helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should probably start wrapping up. I feel like I could talk to you forever.
I know. Thank you. This has been really, really enjoyable and like meaningful, not just like, oh, this is fun. I'm all
Yeah.
for having fun, but I'm glad that hopefully this is a meaningful conversation for you. It is definitely
Absolutely.
meaningful to me and to any listeners who are still sticking around after this very long conversation. I thank you and remind you of the contract that I am expressing to you in having this conversation, that whatever you have learned, I ask that you sit and reflect on all that we have discussed and take action when you see exclusion, when you see discrimination in the future, checking your own self-awareness to make sure that you are not doing harm yourself, and knowing that we're all going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I work in DI and I make mistakes. So learning to apologize and all the things. So we could talk on for like a million years. So anyway, the idea being just like trying to be self-aware, learning
Yes.
to take accountability yourself. You're not an inherently evil, malicious person for making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And interrupting microaggressions and discrimination and harm when you see it in front of you, knowing that it is founded in love of all human beings, not just your own group and people who look like you.
Yes. 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 So we always wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes. So people in our lives who are empathetic, compassionate, even characters from stories we love or movies we love. I will go first, giving you a moment to reflect on your empathy
Thank
hero. Yeah. So my empathy hero this week is Amanda from the Book Stoop podcast. The Book Stoop podcast is this podcast from Row House Publishing. And the team at Row House, they're really trying to disrupt the publishing industry. It's as you know, very white and a very certain way, and has been for a long time. And they're publishing some amazing, diverse voices and perspectives, and just stuff and things, books and decks and all sorts of things. Rebecca Barucki was a guest on the show. She's the founder of Row House Publishing, and I was a guest on the Bookstoop podcast with Amanda, which was just delightful, and just published this week, actually, in August of 2022. So check that out. Wanted to just give a shout out to Amanda for being so present and lovely with me during that conversation. It's not often I'm on other podcasts, and it was fun to change roles for a moment. So
let someone else do the editing.
Yes. So Amanda and really the whole Row House team are my empathy heroes this week.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm glad you went first because I want to just pick like one.
Sure.
And I don't have one. It's a group. I would say that my heroes, empathy and otherwise, are Black women. Literally every single Black woman. Black women are literally everything. If I could surround myself with no other human beings other than Black women, I would. And like never say anything. I just like insert myself in their company and not take up any space and just like soak up their presence. Black women are, I don't want to just say like strong and, fierce advocates for humanity, which they are, but they have so much joy and resilience and love for themselves, for their communities, for their families, for their ancestors, and for the generations after. There is not enough that I can say about Black women. I am honored at every and any moment that I am in their presence online or in person. I am honored that they allow me to be near them or, in spaces with them. If you listening here today, if you are, not a Black woman, I guess, support them, honor them, listen to them, pay them, right? When they speak, listen. They are true leaders as like a birthright. Hard stop.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Rahimeh, where can the Feely humans out there connect with you, learn more about the work you're doing, pay you to come into their business,
Yes.
their organization, all of that stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a website, Ramezany.com, just my name, straight across. However, I'm sorry, yes, you will have to learn how to spell my name. And you will be able to see all different kinds of resources that I have. I do a lot of free educational content on social media. I am most active, as Known said, on LinkedIn and on TikTok, of all things. So two very different sides of the spectrum for social media, but I do really love the difference. Like, one, I can be a little bit more silly and raw and direct, and then other places, like I love LinkedIn. Don't get me wrong, I'm not there like as like a marketing thing. Like, sure, I learn about other people and market my services, but I love LinkedIn so much. I'm also on YouTube and Instagram as well. And if you are interested in consulting, training, speaking, or subject matter expertise services, please do feel free to reach out to me on my website. Yeah, I'm more than happy to work on projects for your organization to bring inclusion and equitable access for all, and especially, of course, advocating for Muslims in particular.
Amazing. Well, all of those links, listeners, will be in the show notes at feelyhuman.co. Rahimeh, Ramezany, you are a delight. I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you being on Yumi Empathy.
Thank you so much, Known. I appreciate you so much. Thank you all to the listeners, especially if you've gotten this far. Wow, you have a great attention span. Be well, be safe, and I will connect with you in the world sometime.
Lovely. Well, listeners, as I always say to you, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's Yumi Empathy.